Namaste. Welcome. It doesn't stop to strike me that the most important thing in the world is unknown to us, just about to anyone. And nobody's really interested. Very few people. That is that inside of us is the core of everything we profess to be looking for. All the happiness and love, the deep joy of the heart is there. But it's the confusion, the ignorance, the Maya that blinds us to the simplest step we have to take, which is a step into the heart. But a great book on this is Ram Dass's book, Be Love Now. And I want us to go through a meditation today where I'm simply going to read the first page. But I'm going to read it very slowly to make it into a meditation, because it's not phrased as a meditation, but it's really is one. So I invite you to just drop everything else and sit in a comfortable but erect pose. And really come present to yourself. To come present to your desire for freedom and for love and for knowing yourself truly. And to start with, I'd like you to go back to some memories of the deepest love that you've experienced. Whether that was someone like your mother, your father, your siblings, a lover, or a child who loved you in a way that just ripped open your heart. So bring up that memory and really step into that. Take a moment to really become present in that memory. Make it to be happening now. Feel that aliveness. Perhaps that sense of awe. And realize that at that time, you too knew something that the whole world seems to have forgotten. You knew of the singular importance of love. And now let's take it a step further as we meditate on the path of the heart. Let's begin to imagine feeling more love from someone than you have ever known. You're being loved even more than your mother loved you when you were an infant. More than you were ever loved by your father. by your child, or by your most intimate lover. More than you were ever loved by anyone. This lover doesn't need anything from you. Isn't looking for any personal gratification, and only wants your complete fulfillment. And of course, we're speaking here of the inner guru who is already completely present in you, just waiting for you to notice. You are loved for being just who you are, just for existing. You don't have to do anything to earn it. Your shortcomings, your lack of self-esteem, physical perfection, or social and economic success, none of that matters at all. No one can take this love away from you, and it will always be there. Imagine that being in this love is like relaxing endlessly into a warm bath that surrounds and supports your every movement, so that every thought and feeling is permeated by it. You feel as though you are dissolving into love. This love is actually part of you. It is always flowing through you. It is like the subatomic texture of the universe, the dark matter that connects everything. When you tune into that flow, you will feel it in your heart, not your physical or emotional heart, but your spiritual heart, the place you point to in your chest when you say, I am. This is your deeper heart, your intuitive heart. It is the place where the higher mind, pure awareness, the subtler emotions, and your soul identity all come together, and you connect to the universe where presence and love are. Unconditional love really exists in all of us. It is part of our deep inner being. It is not so much an active emotion as a state of being. It's not I love you for this or that reason, not I love you if you love me. It's love for no reason, love without an object. It's just sitting in love. A love that incorporates the chair you're on and the room and permeates everything around you. The thinking mind is extinguished in this love. If I go into the place in myself that is love, and you go into the place in yourself that is love, we are together in love. Then you and I are truly in love, the state of being love. This is the entrance to oneness. So if you have even a slight feeling of this presence in the heart, I invite you to just let yourself sink into it. It's like you become heavy and you sink into that great, endless space of joy, of warmth, of softness, of all-embracing tenderness in you. This is the space where the inner guru dwells in you. And it's okay if the mind carries you out of that, but then also realize that your job is just to drop back into the heart again and again. That is the training of love. So take a deep breath. Exhale fully. Inhale again. So the spiritual battle is to recognize that we are attached, we're accustomed to going outward with our attention, with our desires, our fears, our needs, seeking fulfillment where we can never find it. So that's our patterning, that's our conditioning, and our mind will naturally do that. And our job is to see that for what it is and realize that where we have been taught to seek fulfillment, it can never come from. And to let go of the world and its 10 million things and come into the heart. And it seems like this humongous act of renouncing the world, but it's just temporary because we don't have to renounce the world. We have to renounce our attachments to it, our desires and our fears. To all of that we unconsciously cling because it gives us this false sense of identity. It's the only identity we know. So we're afraid to let that one go. So that's the struggle. To actually let go and to find yourself in the heart is the most wonderful thing in the world. And if you haven't had the slightest taste of that and understand what you're tasting, then you can come back to that again and again, and it will wean you off the poisonous breast of the world and bring you to the true nourishment of the heart. Now, in our world, people fall in love and they actually experience a drop of this nectar of the heart. But then they're very much conditioned to be always active in this world. And so this drop of love, which is so immensely powerful, gets entangled with this seeking, with this wanting, with this, attachment to drama. Oh, he loves me, he doesn't love me, I hate him, I gotta get even, he betrayed me, she abandoned me, all of that stuff. And we become drunk on that and miserable. And we call that love. But it is just the faintest mirror image of love. And it's poisoned by our attachments and our desires. So we need to see that. And we can then fall into the heart and begin to really nurture ourselves from this unending source. And then, lo and behold, we have the love from the only secure place or source inside of us that can never dry up. And we realize we have an absolute abundance and we can freely share it with everyone. And we know we don't have to become attached to them. oh, you will save me now. I'll have this wonderful feeling of love because I have you. That's killing it already. So it's about just dropping back into the heart again and again. And what we're not used to is that there's no great to do about that heart. It's a state of being, as Ramdas writes so well. State of being, not a doing. And it comes with a stillness and a sweetness inside of us. So we sink into that and we discover that we are that love. What we experience is not something that comes from someplace else or some miraculous thing. We realize we are that. It's the most natural thing in the world. And it's, in a sense, at first it's impersonal. It's like everything. You realize everything is love. The couch under me, it holds me up. It's completely serving me that way. I don't fall into emptiness. It just holds me up. And it doesn't ask anything back. When I get up, it doesn't complain. Oh, he left me. Now I'm alone. No, it's just there. The same is true about the air that we breathe. The walls of the building. The thousands and thousands of people that have worked in their many different ways to make this life, this moment possible. The people who built the house you're in. Those who made the clothes you wear. The people who invented the, in this case, air conditioner or heater, wherever you are. Thousands and thousands of people have collaborated out of the love of this universe that is the natural state of things. It gets a little harder when somebody crosses our paths who is particularly difficult. And when we can see it in them, when we can see that they too are that love and carry that love inside of them, that they too are a manifestation of that universal guru who is everything. Then it gets interesting. Because when you can see it in the most difficult people, you get to really see it. It doesn't hide from you any longer because your eyes have grown clear and your vision is able to penetrate even the shadows of your own mind, the shadows of your own world. The darkest places, the cruelty, the terrorism, the things you fear. And you see that that essence is even there, although mostly unrecognized. And it's our job to see that, to do that, to bring that awareness into the world. Is there anything that this world is missing more? And we do it, it's so simple. We do it by remembering, by calming down and falling into the heart, coming into the heart again and again, until that becomes the groove that we automatically fall into, rather than the groove of worrying, or the groove of anxiety, or the groove of depression, or the groove of gotta be busy. And out of here, you can take care of everything perfectly without stress, with a great deal of love. So, I said my thing, now it's your turn. Listen.
When you were first speaking before the meditation, and you said something to the effect of a love that just like rips your heart out, it kind of, I started thinking about my
I
children.
didn't say it rips your heart out, but rips your heart open.
Rips your heart open, right? Okay, so right,
Different, yeah.
very different.
Slight difference there. Okay.
And I started thinking about my children, and I thought, you know what? Interesting. I wonder if when I worry and I stress, if it's just an unbelievable love that I feel for them. And instead of suffering with the thought that, oh my God, I'm stressing or I'm worried about them, I can embrace the thought that that's the feeling, because it's coming from the same place. To me, it's a similar sensation of love. It's weird,
Well, but you see, this is where you have to distinguish, because the expression is not pure. When the expression of your love is worry, for instance, it is not a pure expression. That's what I was saying about falling in love. So you fell in love with your children when they were born, of course. When somebody falls in love with a lover, let's use that example, right? But you can translate it easily to a parent-children situation. So you fall in love with a lover, and then that first moment that can be repeated often is absolutely pure. It's love itself. But then the mind comes in and says, well, this is just a fantastic feeling. Now I have to make sure that I have this all the time, right? And boom, attachment, need, desire sets in, right? That's a desire that comes from ego. It's not the desire of love itself to share itself. That's completely pure, you see? But it would share itself as love, or the derivatives of love, like caring or compassion or kindness and so on, not as worry, not as attachment, not as the drama of, the love relationship that turns sour and then your love just flips into hatred. There's no people who hate each other more than past lovers who just got it the wrong way, That's not a pure expression of love. So we have to, we can't say, well, I just hate him because I love him so much. Yeah, it's true. That's what brings the power into that hatred. People spending millions and millions of dollars every day on attorneys in divorce cases because they love that person actually, but they can't live it because it's adulterated by their desires and their needs and their gripes and the whole drama of it, right?
So that's what I'm asking. Is it a similar passion that's been adulterated, like you said?
Yes. So your job is to go back to the love and then see what it is in your psyche that colors it. Like, for instance, if you have a child and then they grow up a little, when they're a little small, they're very easy to love, right? Then they grow up a little and it gets more and more difficult. Suddenly they become sort of adults and they have their own minds, God forbid. And then it's like, because you think you know some things about life, you want to maybe save them from some trouble, right? And you want them to do it your way. And you got World War III on your hands with the people you love. So you have to, in this case, understand, you have to just pull back. I have to let them make their own mistakes. I have to be unconditionally present in my love. And if your kids, if they grow up and they don't talk to you for 5 years or because of something that's going on in their heads, so be it. I know that's not easy, but when you want to run after them and hit your love over the head like a hammer, that is not working. That's not love. So if my kids don't want to talk to me, then that's what I want for them until that changes, you see? And I don't interfere with that. That's when they're adults. Young
What I'm
adults.
wondering
Mhm.
is if I can take that feeling of when I worry or I stress about them and just think of it differently. Like think, okay, instead of me thinking that I'm worried or stressed, maybe I can think that it's just my love for them and send that a love energy. Take that
Absolutely.
big energy that
Yes.
I'm feeling and fill it with love
Yeah.
and with my heart and send that out to them.
That's already there.
Right.
So you're just recognizing what's already there
Like-
underneath the adulteration of your love
Uh-huh.
with the worry, right? So you can just cut out the worry and send them the love that you have anyway.
Which is,
Right.
would be almost more powerful at that moment because I'm
Well,
feeling a very powerful
You
feeling.
can
So if I-
drop the almost.
It would.
It's a lot more powerful.
If I just go out of my head into my heart and send that passionate energy that I'm feeling as love.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if you had a mother who had a habit of worrying about you when you were young and what that feels like compared to having a mother who really just loves you unconditionally. I mean, unconditionally, that means you can do whatever you want and I will love you and there is nothing you can do about it. That's what it means.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever the impulse to meddle, because of, only for their own good, right, or something rises up, you just stop yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You stay in your business.
Stay in
And
the
your
love.
business, the way you know it, is to love them.
And then that energy transfers to them.
Yeah,
So
but it's
a whole
even
cycle.
bigger than that because
Yeah.
that love is not your love for them. That love is love itself in you.
Right.
And you just have experienced it most deeply with your children. So that's like a learning experience that you've had. And now you just, it was focused on your children. Now you just open it up 360 degrees and everything is included.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it blossoms in you. So then think about what is it that you cannot love? What is it that really you cannot love, that really gets to you? Oh, you shake your head like, oh, there's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
There may be nothing right now, but just keep that one on tap and see what comes up, right?
Until tomorrow morning.
Right, yes, right. When the cop pulls you over and gives you the
Right.
$300 speeding ticket or whatever,
Yeah.
or somebody cuts you off in traffic, or somebody treats you in a way that is really inappropriate according to your mind, right? That too is the guru. So when you can see the love there, and that doesn't mean to play dead, you see? Like if somebody gets really aggressive with you, you react appropriately, but you don't have to shut down your heart because that hurts you. If somebody treats you inappropriately or aggressively, they have a problem. They need some help. And one of the ways you help them is by stopping that behavior, by not giving into it. So it's not about becoming a pushover or a doormat at all. It's becoming clear as a bell with dealing with people. So somebody just told me a story of dealing with a very difficult woman who, they're involved in a major organizational deal with two groups of people that are coming together to make one event happen, right? And that particular woman who is organizing the other group of people, right, was just incredibly difficult. And like every communication that went back and forth was just more and more and more difficult. And when you stay in that awareness that this difficult person is also part of God, it's also love in her core. She may not know it. That's an easy guess because most people don't, right? But that doesn't change the fact that they are love in their very core. And then the moment comes when the interaction just continue, And suddenly all the difficulty just collapses. And there's a human being there who's just looking for love just like we all are. And suddenly peace breaks out. And suddenly the organizational tasks just fall into place. So know that everyone is that love in their core, and that everyone is guided. When they ask you for guidance, that's wonderful. Then you have the liberty to share something with them. But when you go after them like this, that creates more trouble. Because nobody likes to be told, do this, do it my way, but only for your own good. It's just harder to hear. So in a sense, this is a difficult position when you're in that place of love and you realize you cannot interfere from your own ego needs. Because that's really what it boils down to. When you worry about your children, it's your own ego need that gets in the way here. So you have to restrain that and simply just love. Be there like this radiant source of love. And when that becomes strong in you, people will be drawn to you. And it may not be the people you have in mind, but it'll be the right people. And just know that family members are an absolute godsend. The more difficult they get, the better. Because who else is going to do the job of showing you where you're not yet enlightened? Of course, that rule is only true for people who want enlightenment. Everyone else, the family members or whoever they're dealing with that's difficult, is just a pain in the neck. But when you want enlightenment and you truly want it, suddenly you're only left with blessings. That's all you're surrounded by. Easy blessings and not so easy blessings. But the not so easy blessings are the really powerful ones. That help?
Thank you.
Gentlemen?
What? What happened? Oh.
Yeah.
My question is, when you have say you have an obligation, it's business, it's something that you have to do, and you haven't gone forward with it, even though it's a responsibility because you have an obligation, a family, or say it's a family obligation here that you feel
So is it business or family?
Well, it's both. It's a business obligation to go away, but you feel because there's a family problem back here that you can't go away, and the two of them are tugging at each other, right? So you're kind of caught in the middle, and you're feeling responsible to both people. You're kind of being torn apart because you have an obligation through your job to do something, but the same thing, the other obligation is just as powerful, and you're afraid to leave, so you kind of find yourself caught in the middle. So,
well, what would love do? This is tricky, right?
Yes.
Because sometimes love would go on the business trip.
Yeah.
So it's not easy. You have to really, this is where you're challenged to look very deeply. And only you can know what's right. Because the people around you may all think you're terrible and you're a horrible father and you're a lousy business partner or whatever. You know, you may upset everyone.
Yes.
But only if you're true to yourself can you find the way out of this maze of a situation like that.
Yes.
And do not worry about upsetting everyone, because you can't. if you're running your life from that, in other words, to please everyone, then there's a surefire way to make a mess of things. You have to find your truth in that situation. Now, you cannot find your truth through the thinking mind, because there's just too many factors. There's too many causes of this and that, and what if, and if I do that, and then that happens, and what will they think of me, and all of that. This is like a billion data, and the mind can never compute it. Right? So you have to become still up here, and you have to go into your heart, phrase the question the simplest way you can, make the smallest possible decisions at a time, right? You don't have to decide the whole thing right away. Maybe it's just, should I go see X now? Or, so you ask yourself that, and then you become still and you listen. And there may be a yes here. If there's a yes here, then you do it. If there's a no here, then that is a yes to your wisdom. You say no to that person in a way that's respectful and doesn't hurt, and you walk your path of integrity. And the integrity is to walk your truth, no matter what. Nobody said it was easy. It gets easier as you do it. It becomes second nature, and then people don't, you see, we're sort of caught in traditional society, we're caught in webs of expectations of people, because we're really living out of the inauthentic self, the self that wants to please or wants to appear as, the big guy or the capable man or whatever it is, right? So we're living this kind of pretense, this mask. And then the people around us expect that. Well, she is the nice woman. Why is she suddenly standing up for herself? This doesn't fit my image of her, right? And you're going to hear it from people. You're going to see their reactions. And it's a way that you have to re-educate the people in your life to actually begin to see you and respect you as your true authentic self, which they've never seen because you've never seen it. You've never showed it. You've tried to play the game of being who you thought you were supposed to be. So, when you become more authentic, the people around you are not going to like it. Hell no. They want you to be the one they think you are. But after a little while of, just becoming increasingly authentic and living your truth, they'll adjust to it. And then the love can actually become deeper and much more authentic and real. And that's not a process that happens overnight. Now, a major decision like this, like should I stay here to take care of the family? Should I go on this important business trip or whatever? It's like, see, what do you really need to do right now? What do you need to decide right now? Maybe you don't have to go and buy the airplane ticket to Timbuktu, right? So right now, maybe it's a question, should I go talk to my daughter right now? And you check that with yourself. And if there's a yes, then you go and you talk to her. And that may give you the clue about how else to proceed. Some of the issues that are open and unsure for you may become clear after you talk to her. You see? So it's like, let yourself be guided. The guidance is there. The question is, are we so caught up in what we think we ought to be doing, or what's right, or what should be happening, or what puts you in a good light, or whatever, right? Then we can't hear the guidance. Then we're just full of static. And that just doesn't serve us. So this is a very different way of living. But it leads to peace. It leads to the peace that is unshakable, because that's your nature. We can look at the love as our true nature. We can look at that peace. It's the same thing. It's that inner source. One way of saying it is it all goes down to attachment. Attachment to your ways of thinking, or to your old emotional habits, to the way you've presented yourself, your personas, that you've presented to the world. All of that attachment to being loved, big one. If you can't love yourself, it doesn't matter how many people love you. You would be one lonely guy, unhappy person. And the love of other people that comes sort of as a substitute, then is just going to work for a little moment, little thrill, and then it's gone, and then you're back with yourself. And that's how most people live, sadly. That's why we have the kind of politics we have on this planet, which are altogether insane.
Where do you draw that line between like self-love and being selfish and serving others and being there for others? You know what I'm saying? Like, we want to love ourselves and be there for ourselves, but then when does that become too self-serving? And all of a sudden you stop giving to others.
Your intuition will tell you, you cannot have self-love without this intuitive knowing of what's right in the moment. Mm-hmm. Self-love is always being in the now. You cannot love in the past or future, right? That's, again, the story of love, and the love that's sort of been taken over by the ego. Oh yeah, I love him because you remember once loving him, but now you really resent the shit out of him, and treat him like shit most of the time. But oh, I love him because he's my husband, or he's my whatever, right? So the love that we're talking about, this authentic love, this unconditional love, happens only in the here and now. And that here and now guides you. It's actually, most of the questions that are in your thinking mind will just automatically become clear when you show up in the now, because it'll be obvious what's the right thing to do out of that love.
And that would be like going into the heart and saying, okay, I need to do this for me. Do I need to do this for me, or do I need to do this for my family or whatever? Yeah. And then having that message there.
And you will find out.
So it's not saying it's all about me and I have to do this for me.
Of course it's all about you.
Right, but
No, listen. It's all about you with wisdom.
With wisdom.
Not from ego. That's the
right.
huge difference, right? It's like black and white. If it's all about you from wisdom, then you will realize that serving people is what makes you happiest. Mm-hmm. And there's no conflict. But you serve people, ultimately, let's just be clear, you're not serving them to make them happy. That's there too, of course, but the first beneficiary is you. Mm-hmm. This is correct service. Now, we can also be in slavery in our own minds. It's like, oh, I'm the wife, I'm supposed to do this, I'm the mother, and that's the right way to behave for a mother, and all of that. Then you're removed from your heart, and you actually resent your family, and you dry up inside of yourself. That is, of course, not what we're talking about here, right? Now, because we're all caught in some of those kind of conniptions, we need to see that, and then at times sort of make this step, wait a minute, now I have to maybe go for a retreat and just clear my damn head out of all this garbage that's in here, right? So I can love. Right? Now, you don't do that when your daughter is sick or something like that, at that moment. But you find the time, and the time will come. If the authentic need is there for you, let's say, take some time off, just as an example, right? That opportunity will come at the right time. Maybe not when you want it, like right now, but it will come at the right time. When you are really committed to finding your enlightenment, the whole universe will help you. The whole universe. It will give you the right support, and it will give you the right challenges. And you can just drop the whole storyline of how this is not right and this shouldn't be happening, and that's all just distraction. Everything should be happening as it's happening. Why? Because it is happening. And that tells you it's the best of all possibilities. So if somebody screams at you like a maniac, that's the best of all possibilities. The question is, who are you in that moment? Can you keep your heart open? Can you keep your mind clear? Fantastic possibility. That's how the universe supports you.
Hello.
So, what did they say? But cat got your tongue? Sitting there looking happy. Well, if nobody wants to talk to me, I'll read you something else. This is a story from Ramakrishna's life, and I just opened the book before I came out here, and this one opened up. Ramakrishna was this great saint, lived in the 1800s in Calcutta, and he was this great lover of the goddess Kali. And this is just a little vignette out of his life. This is talking about his primary student, whose name was Naran, and then later became Swami Vivekananda. And he was this great, great orator and fantastic being who came to the United States and participated in the Parliament of World's Religions in Chicago in 1889. And this was mainly different Christian sects and so on getting together. And there was this Hindu Swami in the middle of it. And nobody ever really had any direct experience to that Eastern way of thinking and philosophy. And he delivered a speech that 100 years later, they recreated these parliaments. I was at the one in 1989 in Chicago again. They recreated that because of the impact of that one speech that Swami held in that parliament. It was so powerful, and it just reverberated through the century. This was really, in a sense, the beginning of Eastern spirituality coming to the West. So can you imagine that? It's just a little over 100 years old. So no wonder we're a little bit not quite out of diapers here yet, right? In our way of understanding all of this profound wisdom. So now this story is quoted out of another book, probably the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, although it doesn't say that here. Ramakrishna was loving but relentless in pushing his young disciples into the arms of the divine by whatever route was right for each one. And here comes the story. Knowing Naran, remember Swami Vivekananda before he got this new name. Knowing Naran's inherent nature, Sri Ramakrishna instructed him in monistic Vedanta, which teaches that the individual soul and Brahman are identical. Brahman is the self, the supreme. One day, and he didn't get it. Naran didn't get it at the time, right? So one day, Naran was telling Hazra, which is another student, about Vedantic non-dualism and his unwillingness to accept it. Can it be, he said, that the water pot is God, that the drinking vessel is God, that everything we see and all of us are God? Naran laughed scornfully at the idea, and Hazra joined in. While they were laughing, Sri Ramakrishna came up to them. "What are you two talking about?" he asked Naran affectionately. Then, without waiting for an answer, he touched Naren and went into samadhi himself. Naren related the effect of the touch. This is the touch of an external guru here. See, the trick is the essence of the external guru is the internal guru. This is the real Sadguru. And we are, of course, in our trance state of having to see things out there, we think, oh, only I need a guru out there that can enlighten me. Well, you know, it ain't gonna happen, maybe. So don't wait. Turn to the inner guru. That inner guru can touch you in the same way. So here we read that story because maybe it's more difficult to tell that story when it happens from the inner guru. Intuitively, suddenly, boom, some insight happens from inside of you. That is possible for all of us. And what determines that? How deeply you want it. So back to the story, the outer guru story. This is how Naren speaks about what happened to him. At the marvelous touch of the master, my mind underwent a complete revolution. I was aghast to realize there was really nothing in the entire universe but God. I remained silent, wondering how long this state of mind would continue. It did pass off all day. I got back home and felt just the same there. Everything I saw was God. I sat down to eat, and I saw that everything, the plate, the food, my mother that was serving it, and I myself, everything was God and nothing but God. I swallowed a couple of mouthfuls and then sat still without speaking. My mother asked me lovingly, "Why are you so quiet? Why don't you eat?" That brought me back to everyday consciousness, and I began eating again. But from then on, I kept having the same experience no matter what I was doing. Eating, drinking, sitting, lying down, going to college, strolling along the street. It was a kind of intoxication. I can't describe it. If I was crossing a street and saw a carriage coming toward me, I did have the urge, as I would ordinarily, to get out of its way for fear of being run over. For I said to myself, well, I did not have the urge, right? For I said to myself, I am that carriage. There's no difference between it and me. During that time, I had no sensation in my hands and feet. When I ate food, I felt no satisfaction from it. It was as if something else was eating. Sometimes I would lie down in the middle of a meal, then get up again after a few minutes and go on eating. This would happen. Thus, it would happen that one of these days I would eat far more than usual, but this never upset me. My mother became alarmed. She thought I was suffering from some terrible disease. "He won't live long," she'd say. And of course he did. So these insights, in this case, of the great oneness of life, that God is everything. And what is God, if not love? That's revolutionarily different from the way we usually see life. Oh, you know, it's a drudgery, it's a rat race, it's a this, it's a that. You know, there's all our conditioned thoughts. And we have tons of proof to back it up. Our grim view of reality. But when we suddenly, you know, when there's this yearning in us for the truth, for freedom, for love, whatever it is that turns you on, that it's authentic and it's powerful and it's deep, then that inner guru or some outer agent of that inner guru, which could be a man on the street, or a cat or a dog, or a bird flying in the sky and pooping on your head. It could be anything. It can just arise from inside. Because that inner guru is your innermost self. And if your desire for enlightenment is authentic, that inner guru will immediately respond in the way that inner guru knows to respond. And then your perception of the world will undergo a revolution. It will become completely different than it was. And in that process, you may go through stuff like that, or suddenly he doesn't eat, or he eats too much, and people worry about him. Yeah, this is just sort of the transitional phase, you know? It's like when you have something like that goes from one state into a higher state, a higher vibratory state, like for instance, water. So when you boil water, let's say at first it sits in the pot and you put it on the stove and it just sits there. And then just before it starts boiling, the whole thing starts shaking. You know, it's like it rumbles, right? It's like this energy happens in there. This is that transformation. And then when it boils, it just becomes gas and it's okay in itself again. So it's that transitional stage, the just about boiling stage, right? And we go through that and we can have all kinds of strange and unexplained phenomena happening and so on. And don't worry about it too much. You know, just keep going and know that you're guided and find your way to truth, which, as I said, is supported by everything, whether you label it good or bad. Everything supports you on this path. Even your attachments to your suffering, strangely, they allow you only to grow as fast as you're able to grow. And when you have a lot of attachments to your pain body, that would be slow. But you don't have to be a slave of the pain body. So when your desire, your singular desire for enlightenment soaks up all your other distracting desires, and you just follow that one desire, then suddenly your transformation speeds up. And you're ready for it in that case. Do we have some there?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay.
Reminds me of the quote, things don't happen.
A little louder?
It reminds me the saying, things don't happen to us, they happen for us.
Absolutely, as Katie says.
Right.
Nothing happens to us, everything happens for us. But we need to really look at it because we see stuff and, oh, this is happening to me, this is terrible. Maybe you get a diagnosis or you are in an accident or whatever, right? So it looks like just a disaster. So we need to be very aware that everything happens for us and not to us, and start looking, how is this for me? How is this for me? And sometimes it's not easy to see. We have to look very deeply. You know, a lot of very difficult things happen.
Mm.
And it's true that they happen for us, but when we don't see that, then we get caught in a negative loop of thinking and experiencing, right? Like when I say, oh, this is a pure disaster, then that's what I get. Because that's why my eyes are able to see, because of my thinking, right? But when I say, well, this has to be happening for a reason. What is the reason? What is the purpose? How is it a blessing in disguise, right? When I look at that, I clarify my eyesight. And after a while, I can see it. This is such an incredibly magical way to live when you really think of it. Now, we're trained to think that we live in a world where there's just terrible suffering and horrible things happen to people and so on. And from that perspective, it's absolutely true. It's like the world is not one way or the other. The world is the way we see it. So when that's my mindset, the world is, terrible things happen, right? Well, then terrible things are real for me. But you change your mind, you change the world.
Rose says that this is a radical shift of attention dash perspective.
Yes, absolutely. And a good thing it is, because our old perspective wasn't all too rosy. Right, Rose?
When you change the way you look at things, so the things you look at change.
Sitting? Yes, you got
I
it.
like
Yeah.
that one, yeah.
Yeah, so true.
That's cool.
Say it again, so everybody can hear.
When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And they don't
Is
have
that somebody specifically, or you just
Yeah.
made it
I
up?
can't remember the order.
They don't have to really change, actually, but the meaning you ascribe to them becomes radically different, and often the exact opposite. Something you thought was this horrible thing becomes this incredible blessing. But what you're looking at, the facts of the matter, they may just remain the same.
Mhm.
Anyone else? I feel like I'm at an auction. Any other bidders here?
Rose's law, like funny. So much is possible throughout this lens.
Throughout what?
These lenses, or
Yeah.
this lens.
Alrighty then. Thank you. You wasted another precious hour listening to this stuff. So thank you for joining, and namaste. Be well.
Namaste.